For my opening scene, I wanted to introduce the spin star. I wanted the audience to feel like they were watching a UFO, like mini mime or puppetry. After watching the footage back, I noticed that parts of my body and limbs are sticking out from the sides of the box. I didn't take into consideration the camera that was on the side. If I was performing this in a circle, the illusion would be broken. In the ideal world, I would like to have LEDs on my spin star so that it was more lit up, as my spin star is quite dark and it didn't really show up on stage. Here, you can notice one of my LED balls have rolled out from behind the box. It's not a big deal, but I wanted to keep the LEDs a surprise till the very end. Before coming on stage, my nerves were at an all-time high, as in my rehearsal, a lot went wrong. My timing was out, and I dropped a lot. Even my flip section fell off as I was disorientated and couldn't really tell where I was. Luckily, when it came to the showing, I was thinking a lot more about my timing. What I don't like is that the first time you see me juggling, I hit a stance and I stay very still. Whereas in practice, I was moving around and was a lot more free with my movement. There were many different juggling patterns I wanted to throw into this routine. I wanted to keep it simple so that I could actually accomplish each trick instead of choosing difficult patterns that I would not be able to land every time. I spent some of my creative process figuring out how I was going to get on top of the box and what kind of tricks I wanted to perform. As if I was to drop, it meant I would have to get down and then get back up to complete the routine. As well as getting onto the box, I had to think of a few ways of getting off. After having feedback that I needed more stillness, I took this opportunity to use arm catches instead of a continuous flow. This way I was able to address my audience a little more. I wasn't very happy with how I landed my cork. As you can see, my hand touches the floor and my chest is low. It came down to confidence. Earlier that day, I was practicing the same move with a nice high kick, meaning I'd land with my chest up. It was only the day before that I decided I was going to use a crash mat, as originally I wanted to do it to the floor. But for safety reasons and from previous experience, I wanted to be safe. I knew from day one that I wanted to add flips into my routine. I spent a few sessions looking over some tricks I knew from the past, such as a wall fall, inward side, and gate flip. Also, the block by itself didn't stay still, so I had to make sure it had weights in before I did any kind of flipping of it. Here is some footage of me relearning my inward side off the block. This is a gate flip. I chose not to put it into the piece, but I still didn't have confidence to send it without a crash mat. The next section is where I do my Mills mess into the Legolas slide. The camera angle does not do it justice as the balls disappear into the background, whereas as you can see when I practice with a white shirt and light background, it's much more visible. I call this move the Legolas slide, as I stole it from Lord of the Rings and adapted it to fit my juggling routine. Something I found in my tech rehearsal is that when I throw the ball up into the air, I lose it in the lights, meaning that when it comes to catching, it made it very difficult. The only way I was going to overcome this was to have a smaller gap of where I was going to throw the ball to. This way I was able to catch it without actually having to travel to where it's going to land. My reaction to this warning sound is very minimal, tension level 3 or 4, whereas really it should have been tension level 8 or 9. I'm off stage for a little too long here. Ideally, I would have liked to be able to go straight off and straight back on without having to leave the audience thinking what's going to happen next. I had to make sure I was holding onto the LED balls without dropping them. I decided to put the LED balls inside of my t-shirt so that I could drop them to make it look like I was laying eggs. Whereas before, I was putting them in my trousers and this just felt silly. And if laying eggs on stage wasn't silly enough, I should have used the power of 3. As I was dropping 3 balls, I could have had some kind of different reaction on my third egg that was laid. This spin star routine was very loosely put together. I knew what kind of tricks I wanted to do, I just didn't know how many times I was going to do them. I was very lucky that we were inside a small room, as if I was to hit the ball off stage, I might have actually had to go running. I wasn't very happy with how I landed this trick I call a waterfall, as it should be a lot higher and a continuous flow on the landing. Here I'm trying to land a pinch trick. My hands are very clammy and it just didn't work. Ideally, I'd want it to look a bit more like this, where I'm using rosin on my hands to make sure that I have a better grip when I pinch it. In the lead up to this show, I was practicing a floor roll with a kick up, but I didn't have it on lock, so I decided not to put it in. Again, my reaction and reason for leaving the stage isn't very clear, and if I was to have more time, I would have liked to have a bit more of an exit for this alien, as it's the last time you see him. I found coming up with an ending to this piece really difficult, as I wanted the alien and the captain to meet at some point, but because of the amount of time I had left to perform, I decided to keep it simple and to do a light show. If I was to have more time, I would have liked the alien to come back and find his eggs broken. The alien would then go off and find the captain. They would then have an epic battle between juggling and spin star. This was my first time performing with LED balls. I found there were certain patterns that looked better with the LEDs, and there were certain patterns that didn't. Overall, I really enjoyed the whole process of the creating and performing of this piece. It was my first solo at Circa Media, where I got to choose exactly what I wanted to perform. But I gave it my all and I had a lot of fun.